Since time immemorial, people in big cool hats have been telling people in small or less cool hats, or God forbid no hats, what to do. Which in a time when most people were illiterate dirt farmers, having some nerd in cool PJs telling you what to think about your neighbor's oxen and shit probably served a decent purpose. But with such responsibility comes a lot of power. And with a lot of power comes a lot of stuff. Cool stuff, neat stuff, but mostly stuff I wish I didn't learn about when making this video. And they've been collecting it since literally we started counting years. Because we're talking about the Catholic Church, specifically weird shit that they claim to have, which is abundant. There's an abundance of weird shit that they claim to have. Disclaimer, I do not have beef with Catholics or Catholicism or whatever. I think you guys have really cool churches and don't take this seriously because I'm definitely not. With a history spanning thousands of years, it would make sense that the church would have a pretty sizable collection of historical stuff. Catholic Church has always had a bit of an aura of mystery and conspiracy around it, and with how secretive and vague they can be about the stranger things they claim to have, makes them even more dubious, which is great for content, but worse for academia as a whole. I imagine there's multiple artifacts in the possession of the Catholic Church that monks may or may not know that they have that could completely recontextualize history. But we're not here for that. That's nerd shit. We're cool guys. We want the freak show. You want the freak show. You want weird shit, right? What's coming hot? The Catholic Church potentially has the largest physical porn collection in the world. Just an insanely ludicrous amount of porn. Biblical levels of porn, one might say. Some of you might be wondering why they kept it, but I mean, I say wondering why they kept it, but come on, we all know why they kept it. It's called hentai. It's art. This has been rumored for like centuries and has kind of been an ongoing joke between people for a while. The veracity of the claim is sort of somewhere in between a truth and a lie. There's almost definitely a ton of porn in the Catholic Church's possession, but the largest collection, though, probably not. Maybe at one point in history. That now goes to the Kinsey Institute. Unfortunately, the church will have to take second gooner on this one, but still, good effort. However, there is an argument that the Catholic Church has the most high-class porn collection, like various wiener drawings from the famous and definitely not gay artist Michelangelo, whose full name is actually super sick. It's Michelangelo di Ludovico Buonarroti. Simone. Or just Michelangelo Buonarroti. It's usually what people call him. Fun little fact about me, I used to think his name was first name Michael, last name Angelo. And I guarantee at least one person listening to this thought that as well, and now they feel as stupid as I did when I found that out. They also have various other, probably at least by Renaissance artists, sexually suggestive works. Either way, there's definitely dicks in the possession of the Catholic Church, which I find hilarious. Time Vision Goggles. Or the Chronovisor. Yes, this is what it's really called. Now, little disclaimer here. The second I finish this script for this video, Hakulaja uploaded a video about shit in the Vatican archives. I haven't watched it. I assume it's incredible and much better than my content. But if there's any sort of similarity, shut the fuck up, okay? I'm kidding. I love you. In the early 60s, a man named Pellegrino Ernetti, a Benedictine monk, a musical theorist, and physics enthusiast, along with the help of 12 accomplished scientists at the top of their field, including but not limited to Enrique Fermi, Nobel Prize-winning physicist, and literal Nazi scientist as well as NASA engineer Werner von Braun, developed, supposedly, the chronovisor. According to Ernetti, all things left a specific auditory and visual signature. And by measuring those signatures and reorganizing them in a very specific way, he could experience and record past events in vivid and revelatory detail. Ernetti claimed to have saw the crucifixion of Jesus, this picture supposedly being proof. Many speeches by Cicero. For those of you who are currently not men in their 20s and obsessed with the Roman Empire, Cicero was a Roman politician who did a lot of cool Roman politician things. A lot of people like him. A lot of people think he's smart. It's not the guy from Skyrim. It's a different guy. He also claimed to have seen the Last Supper, as well as a lost Roman play. The building of the biblical Temple of Solomon, Dante's Journey Through Hell, and in some literature, a fucking centaur? All right, I'm officially calling shenanigans on this one. I doubt that this one is real. This seems completely made up. And with the limited research I did about the physics of this sort of thing, it at least kind of seems like bullshit. It definitely sets off my woo-woo Marvel movie technobabble alarm, like when people who know nothing about physics just sort of say quantum over and over again. If there's any physicists in the comments, please let me know what your professional opinion on this is. Supposedly on his deathbed, Ernetti admitted that he kind of just made all this shit up. Other sources claim that the Catholic Church forced him to do so. Either way, it's kind of crazy something this sci-fi is associated with the Catholic Church at all. When I think of the Catholic Church, I think of more like a medieval fantasy setting. You know what I mean? I can't really find an official statement from the Catholic Church on this one. But in my opinion, it seems like they kind of like to lean into this sort of shit. Like there are instances of the Catholic Church funding research for extraterrestrials, and they seem like weirdly open to the idea, which just seems a little too on the nose for conspiracy theorists for it not to be bait for me. But I do the same thing. It's great for content. So no judgment from me. All right, this brings us to the meat of the weird shit that Catholics claim to have, or at least the Catholic Church. Relics, which are mostly bits and bobs of past tense people in admittedly swanky, dripped out cases and clothes. Like some of these MFers are making Wisdom K look like a default character skin. No offense to Wisdom, UKCast. Collab, maybe? No? Okay, so there are three classes of relics, but we're only really going to focus on the first class because that's the one that is the most content. A first class relic can either be something that came directly in contact or is directly associated with Jesus Christ, or a physical part of a saint. Fun fact sidebar, the reason that they burned heretics is so that they wouldn't leave relics after they died. So a big what the fuck to Catholicism for that. It's also a common misconception that witches were burned. This is actually not true. They just killed witches however they felt like, in some of the weirdest, cruelest ways you could think of. Mostly for being a woman while also simultaneously doing stuff that is not being silent and pregnant, both or either. It like really sucked ass to be a woman back then. Not to say it's not difficult now, but they were really on some like bro level misogyny, sort of MLG, no scope, trick shot type shit. It's also untrue that medieval people killed a bunch of women for being witches. It was very rare in the medieval ages for people to be accused of witchcraft because, funnily enough, medieval people didn't believe magic was real, at least not pagan magic. Witch hunting came centuries after, when things admittedly still blew chunks. Medieval people did, however, kill a bunch of women, just for other reasons that were probably also bullshit. Most first class relics being physical pieces of people could make a lot of them pretty fucking weird, to say the least. For instance, there are multiple severed heads of various religious figures, Christian and Catholic, that happen to be relics. They were usually severed because historically, at least, for a really long time, people just really didn't fuck with Christians, which is exactly what happened to John the Baptist, at the hands of the appointed king of Judea, appointed by, you guessed it, the Romans. Romans really, really, really didn't like Christians for a while, which I find kind of ironic, considering that Rome is now kind of the de facto capital of Catholicism, with the Pope being the Bishop of Rome. If you haven't already guessed, the head of John the Baptist is, in fact, a first class relic. Interestingly enough, there's a bunch of heads of John the Baptist. They got one in France, they got one in Germany, they got one in Spain. Muslims even have one in Damascus. It's unknown which of these is the true head of John the Baptist. Or alternatively, if John the Baptist had significantly more heads than we previously thought. My money's on the one in Damascus because that would piss off the most people that I tend to dislike. Either way, sadly, no head for John the Baptist. Now, for the physical item category of relics, I feel like this is what we all think of when we think of Catholic lore, right? We have the true cross or pieces of it, which there's a shit ton of them, and if they're all real, the cross must have been fucking huge. You have the Spear of Destiny, which supposedly pierced Jesus' side during the crucifixion. It's just sort of an extra fuck you to Jesus, as if crucifying someone wasn't enough of a fuck you. Some sources say it's in a museum in Turkey. Other sources say it's in the Vatican archives. You'll find that sources really enjoy claiming things are in the Vatican archives, including myself. It's one of the main premises of this video. And sort of the grand Mac Daddy of Catholic lore items, the Holy Grail, which of course was the best Indiana Jones movie and third best Monty Python movie. If all of these relics seem kind of macabre, it's because they are. I found it's an ongoing thing with Catholic stuff. Like, they really like blood and bones and shit. They kind of remind me of goths. Like, I feel like they're like maybe a decorative skull and a raven away from being one. Another interesting relic is the jaw of Saint Anthony or Antony, depending on how fruity of a European you are, which has a lot of reaction meme potential, in my opinion. Kind of reminds me of that picture of the brain with only the eyeballs. St. Anthony was known for his eloquent and moving sermons, and supposedly when they dug him up, his jaw and tongue had not decomposed. It's kind of weird they dug him up in the first place, but whatever, it's their guy, I guess. Whether you believe the story or not is up to you, but he's certainly an interesting looking fella, and that's why he's here. This rather neatly brings me to the qualifications of becoming a saint and thus creating a first class relic in the first place. Technically, anybody who goes to heaven is considered a saint in Catholicism. But if you want that ST before your name, you have to do all of four things, usually. One, you generally need to be considered a person who is rad and did cool Christian stuff, specifically Catholic Christian stuff. Two, you generally need to have done miracles. Three, be canonized, i.e., a bunch of old dudes in cool robes decide whether or not you're a saint after investigating. I don't really know what that means, but I really like you guys' robes, so keep it up. I'm proud of you. And finally, die, because you can't go to heaven without dying. Duh. They also believe saints have something called incorruptibility, which means that their body doesn't decay after they die, which is why St. Anthony's jaw and tongue didn't decompose, because that was supposedly like the most holy, saintly thing about him, or whatever. This leads credence to my theory that Catholics have the coolest lore out of all the Christians. Minus the Gnostics. I might do a video on Gnosticism, they were really trippy. The next relic very much does not lend credence to the whole Catholics having the coolest lore theory at all. Because the next relic is, I shit you not, St. Clair's fingernail and hair clippings. Dude, I do not know what they were thinking with this one. The reason for this, in short, is basically, back in the day, St. Clair, she was kind of a baddie. And for religious purposes, sought to eliminate her vanity to become closer with God. And while doing so, she cut off her famously beautiful hair and nails. Which, if this happened today, some very weird, lonely guy on the internet would definitely buy both of them for way too much money. But honestly, making them into a holy relic is kind of worse. So, fun fact about St. Clair. Claire? Am I saying that right? I never know if I'm saying that right. Whatever her name is, she was good friends and the first follower of St. Francis I, the namesake of Pope Francis II, this guy. Popes tend to name themselves after popes that they want to emulate. However, Francis II was a little bit different, as he named himself after Francis I, who was never pope, just a saint, which is cooler anyways. St. Francis I was known for being very progressive for his time about women's issues and human rights in general, and just sort of not being an asshole like a lot of people were back then. Thus, the reason Pope Francis decided to take his name. If you ask me, I think he lived up to that legacy beautifully. He seemed like a really chill guy. R.I.P. After St. Francis founded the Franciscan Order of Monks, St. Clair, with the help of St. Francis, founded the Order of St. Clair, or the Order of Poor Ladies. Slay Queen. They were both known for their kindness and anti-materialist lifestyle and beliefs. So despite the initial grossness of her relic, St. Clair seemed like a pretty incredible person. St. Francis, too. This, in my opinion, is when things start to get legitimately juicy. And I mean that, unfortunately, a bit literally. I present to you the Madonna Lactanes. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but I can't find a pronunciation guide. Or, for us normal people, the breast milk of the Virgin Mary, Mother of Jesus. I told you this shit got weird. And yes, this is a real painting. And what you think is going on is in fact going on. I've censored it for obvious reasons, but I swear it's real. The title of the painting is Alonso Cano, Saint Bernard and the Virgin. Look it up if you're into that kind of thing. There are, unfortunately, for the sake of my sanity, significantly more paintings like this depicting the exact same thing going on, but we'll get to that later. Thankfully, this freaky cat boy is not related to the dog breed. I don't think I could ever look at Beethoven the same way again. There's a weird amount of lore for this one. I found at least 3 relics that supposedly contain the breast milk of Virgin Mary, which is too many. Actually, it's precisely 3 instances too many. I can't find a real explanation where any of these relics came from, besides, well, Mary? Slay Queen? However, there are 2 main instances that are specifically relevant. The first one has to do with this freak, St. Bernard. Now, St. Bernard was supposedly subject to a miracle. In a vision, Mary appeared nursing Jesus. Jesus then took a break. Mary literally aimed and shot milk into this guy's eyes and mouth. Sometimes it's just the mouth, sometimes it's the eyes and the mouth. As a side note, I really like how Jesus is portrayed in a lot of these paintings. He looks like really like what the fuck is going on type beat. This supposedly gave him divine wisdom or some type of shit. I don't know. I refuse to think about this too much. Anyways, this story sparked an artistic movement of depicting this supposed miracle. It also seems like the stories and paintings contributed to a lot of relics related to this story to appear around a similar time. It's hard to tell how many of these relics are legit. Some are confirmed by the Catholic Church, some are not. Some are only confirmed by the Eastern Orthodox Catholic Church, which is a whole different thing. Maybe I'll make a video about that. I don't know. Anyways, there's many reliquaries and vials that claim to have the breast milk of Virgin Mary, all just as gross as the last one. Here's a few. The second one has to do with a grotto in Bethlehem called the Milk Grotto. The story goes that Mary was supposedly hiding in this grotto when the Pharaoh ordered a search for Jesus as a baby to kill him, right? There's a whole book in the Bible for that. While nursing Jesus, she supposedly spilled a little, which turned the entire grotto white, thus the name. This is where most of the relics related to Mary's mounds come from, and there's a lot of it. Supposedly, stone from this grotto can help with fertility and cancer. I really hope people aren't using this as an alternative for actual medical treatment. That would be tragic. For the paintings alone, it's worth the entry, let alone all the relics and the infrastructure of miraculous medicinal cave sand. However, this is only the runner up. The next one made me want to jump out of a window. Well, more than I already want to now. All right, enough stalling. This is without a doubt the most out of pocket relic slash item that the Catholic Church has ever claimed to have. It's supposedly the last surviving part of Jesus Christ after ascension, if you believe that kind of thing. Dozens of churches have claimed to have it. I don't know why they would want it, but Mazel Tov, I guess, because we're talking about the Holy Prepuce. Or, in English, Jesus' foreskin. Yeah, you heard me right. For many, many years, the Catholic Church has engaged in conversations about Jesus' foreskin. And now so will the comments, probably. The story for this one is nearly as absurd as the item itself. Nearly. The first ever mention I can find of it was in something called the Arabic Infancy Gospel, whatever the fuck that is. A lot of places and people have claimed to have it. It first appeared as a wedding gift for Charlemagne on Christmas Day 800. For the uninitiated, Charlemagne was a really important Christian conqueror king guy. He's really important to history, but that's for another video. Charlemagne said that an angel supposedly gave it to him as a personal gift for his wedding. But it's generally considered that Empress Irene of the Byzantine Empire gave it to him. After Charlemagne was done doing whatever the hell he wanted to do with it, they tossed this thing all around Europe. Over 30 churches have claimed that at some point they have had Jesus' foreskin, including being sent to multiple royal people, including in 1411 when it was sent to the Queen of England to help with the conception of a child. While all this is happening, tons of nerds are debating whether or not this is actually Jesus' foreskin or not. It is the hottest topic in Christianity. But while no one was looking, because they were too busy arguing about foreskin, in 1527, a German soldier stole it during the sacking of a city. It later resurfaced and continued upon its bizarre adventures across Europe. And then, in 1983, I swear to God I'm not making this up, someone stole it again. They finally got it back, and then the church was like, all right, guys, no one can talk about the foreskin thing anymore. It's heretical. I can't really find if they made it heretical before or after it was stolen in 1983. I think it's been an on again, off again situation. However, the reason why it's heretical is kind of crazy. It's surprisingly not, because discussing Jesus's holy hog is definitively hilarious and makes them look ridiculous. The reason is because some theologians believe it's heretical to claim that after his resurrection, not all pieces of Jesus went to heaven after his ascension, which in my eyes confirms Jesus' canonical stance as an intactivist. Which honestly, base, they took something from us, because I don't know about you, but I sure as hell haven't seen the thing. And my search history sure as hell is cursed trying to find it. So I like to think it went up with him for my own sake. I don't know who the hell would even want it in the first place. That thing has been supposedly holding up for millennia. For an already raisin like part of the body to be that old, it probably looks like the old worm lady from that one episode of SpongeBob who doesn't like chocolate. Well, this video all really started because of the chronovisor, and it sort of quickly spiraled into me finding the most ridiculous things I've ever read about pretty much any religion besides Scientology. Do all the things people ask you to do on YouTube videos, like, sub, comment, etc. If you want, if not, fuck you a little bit, but whatever. To the Catholics out there, no ill will. Come on, be honest. This is kind of, it's kind of ridiculous. There's some kind of ridiculous things going on, but I respect all faiths.
There is mounds.